fine. Welcome, everyone. Sorry for the delay coming in for workshop. If I could trouble you all to, we just stand up and have a little, do the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Thank you, everyone. I think we're in the right order of things. So, President's report, there's not a lot. I'm going to kind of skip that. We've got a few different things that are coming up that I want to point to. So we'll make light of my comments. We'll do that in May more, and I'll comment as we need to through the evening. I'd like to then just simply introduce the PALs for our little impact discussion from the community. So if we have Ms. Boyle, thank you for coming. So I will turn it over to you for our PALs Producers at Large update.
I guess I'll just look at you, and it's just 3 slides. So I can. Good evening, everyone. My name is Sarah Boyle, and I'm the president of PALs, or Producers at Large. PALs is the parent booster organizations for all things theater at Lake Forest High School. Our goal is pretty simple. We do what we can to support the theater at LFHS, including the students and the cast and tech crew for all the shows, as well as the faculty, producers, and directors, and any other adults involved in the productions throughout the school year. Our board consists of 9 members, all of whom have students who've been dedicated members of the theater since their freshman year. The bulk of our support comes during the 4 main productions during the school year, as well as with the senior one acts that open the theater season each year. We have responsibility for multiple aspects of the show. We coordinate and serve dinners during long rehearsal nights for cast, crew, and faculty. On some of these nights, the students and faculty are busy with the show from right after school until 9 p.m., so we're happy to provide sustenance. We coordinate show t-shirts and kudos for the show programs. The kudos give parents and other student supporters the chance to celebrate the students' hard work. We publicize performances using social media, working with the communications department at LFHS, putting posters in local businesses around the community, and reaching out to local middle schools to encourage attending of the shows. We promote student participation and recognize all the actors and tech crew. For anyone who's been to a show at LFHS, you've likely seen the boards outside the theater that celebrate the cast and crew. Finally, we encourage parent involvement, as help is always needed and appreciated. Parent participation can include serving dinner and running concessions, but we also ask for parent assistance during stage build days. There are many Saturdays where we get hardworking and knowledgeable and not so knowledgeable parents who are able to paint the set, use drills and circular saws, and cart heavy lumber from the basement to the stage in partnership with many students. Aside from the show-specific responsibilities, PALS uses funds raised through membership and annual auction to partner with the theater faculty to determine production needs for things that fall outside the normal production budget. For instance, we have funded fight choreographers and dialect coaches. Newsies, which was 2 years ago, Newsies actors had all had Brooklyn accents for the show, and for several of the past shows, students learned how to fight on stage. This year for Mean Girls, we have a request to fund 2 professional guitarists after being unable to secure students from LFHS. Our funds also go towards end-of-the-year theater banquet, which celebrates all students who have been involved with theater over the past year, and especially all seniors who have ever participated in a production here. Perhaps our most significant funding is for senior scholarships, which go to deserving seniors who have had a significant impact in the LFHS theater community, whether they intend to pursue theater after high school or not. We also work to support the faculty with other needs that come up throughout the year, including offering financial help to students who want to partake in activities that honor them and showcase their abilities. For instance, this year, PALS helped fund 2 LFHS theater students who were chosen to participate in the Illinois All-State production of She Kills Monsters, which was presented at the Illinois Theater Fest. One student performed in the show, and the other helped with the lighting. To finish, I'd like to say that Lake Forest should be proud of its theater program. All of us parents involved in PALS have chosen to spend our time in this way because we see the positive impact the theater has had on our students and their friends. LFHS boasts a strong theater department with dedicated teachers who produce innovative shows that foster creativity and teamwork among students. This program not only entertains the community, but also provides valuable life skills for all of its students. Unlike with sports, there is no fall or spring season for theater students. Many participate the whole school year, with one act in August being the home opener and the April musical being the World Series. And like with sports practice, the theater students devote most of their time to rehearsals, which usually begin right after school and can end anywhere between 6:30 and 9 p.m. at night, depending on where they are in the production cycle. Students who are cast in shows are also required to put in at least 8 hours in construction crew time, which means giving up several Saturdays per show, and usually they choose to spend many more hours than required. The time requirement for tech crew students are at least as demanding as for the actors, and their work doesn't end when a show ends. There are many students who participate behind the scenes in any event that takes place in the theater spaces, which can include the evening presentations at the school, music concert, the talent show, and TEDx. Many students have been incredibly fortunate to have learned expertise that could help them for the rest of their lives. Beyond presentation skills, some learn lighting and sound tech and other set design and construction skills. Because of their training here, they have capabilities that prepare them for so many things beyond theater. A PALS mom recently shared that her son fixes things around the house and has even helped with lighting problems, all due to his training and tech crew. Some have discovered career paths they otherwise wouldn't have known and choose to go to college to study technical aspects of theater. Beyond technical skills, another parent told me that theater saved their child from the loneliness of COVID because these students bonded over Zoom rehearsals. And yet another parent said their child entered school not knowing many people, but blossomed socially due to the inclusiveness and friendliness of their castmates. My point in sharing this perspective is that Lake Forest students aren't just building a reputable theater program, they're having an experience that will help prepare them for the rest of their lives. I encourage everyone here to follow PALS on Instagram and to join us at the Spring Musical, which opens on April 18th. It's going to be a great show. Thank you.
Thank you. And I have a bit of a selfishness because it's part of something dear to me, but are we doing a photo or anything like that? Or were we? Yeah, yes, we should do a quick little photo if we could. So I'm going to move on to Dr. Montgomery's superintendent report, please.
Thank you, sir. So tonight, I'm excited to share many topics with you, but first, this is a great picture of our scouts competing and medaling at the Nelson Daniel Classic at the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater just before spring break. And I really like the picture and the excitement. Tells the story. As we look at tonight, the topics I'm going to cover are a shout out to there's a lot of students featured in this presentation. We really want to celebrate their success. So we'll talk about Scout Way Awards, touch on board goals and that work, the forum that's coming up, some book talks that are on the horizon, more opportunities for the board to connect with the community, and then finish with the Scholastic Bowl achievement. So here are the Scout Way Awards, and I'm thrilled to share the most recent recipients of those awards. These exceptional scouts embody our LFHS values and showcase outstanding dedication, leadership, and service. If you could give them a round of applause just to join us in congratulating their remarkable achievements. Dr. Lennart's not the only one who gets to showcase kids every once in a while, or young people, so I'm stealing some of her thunder. The next thing I would like to highlight is the tremendous amount of work that the 115 board has done on developing board goals that are coinciding with our portrait and our strategic plan. And they have had, since we've last presented, a board retreat where they spent about 4 or 5 hours together working on goals. And then tonight, a considerable portion of the workshop was revamping or actually reflecting on the progress of the drafts. And they will continue the discussion in the May meeting and either present them to the public in the May meeting or the June meeting for adoption. I want to thank Dr. Lennart because sometimes we bring in facilitators to help this work with the board, but Dr. Lennart has been our lead facilitator and done a masterful job at capturing what the board's desires are and creating them into goals that they can be truly proud of, and hopefully the community can as well. There is a community forum on April 11th, and that's just around the corner, believe it or not. And I'm asking the community to watch your mailbox for a postcard, which will invite all members of Lake Forest, Lake Bluff, and Knollwood communities to get an update on our capital projects. The meeting will be held in the library of the high school, and this will include an update from our architects, a status report from our referendum finances, and plenty of time for Q&A. You will be able to submit questions in advance by using the QR code on the screen or ask your questions in person. We have our, I think this is the third of the year or fourth of the year board coffee with our board presidents, and that is coming up on April 24th from 6:30 to 7:30 at the Gorton Center. These are opportunities, remember, for our board members to hear firsthand feedback and questions and hopefully provide some insight on any wonderings that the community may have. And I want to thank John for his leadership as well as Annie Helms on 67 for them affording the time to be present for our community. We have a couple book talks on the horizon. The first one is actually tomorrow, April 3rd at 6:30 in Gorton. And this is a conversation with the author and the investigative reporter, Meg Kissinger. Meg grew up in the North Shore in Wilmette in a family who quietly struggled with issues of mental health. And Meg's goal is to break the stigma and encourage community conversations around mental health. We are hosting this in partnership with the Lake Forest Bookstore and the Gorton Center, and we're grateful for the collaboration of our partners. This effort also reflects Goal 3 of our District 115 strategic plan, which is forging community partnerships to amplify student learning experience and have a positive impact within and beyond the communities of Lake Forest, Lake Bluff, and Knollwood. So if you have time tomorrow, please come. It is not going to be a super uplifting experience in terms of her story is a difficult topic, but the message itself, the takeaways, will be very uplifting about hope of how to have difficult conversations with your families around a topic that is often stigmatized across this country. I have the pleasure of interviewing Ellen Galinsky, who just released a new book 2 weeks ago, and it's called The Breakthrough Years, and it's on adolescence. It's called A New Scientific Framework for Raising the Thriving Teens. I volunteered and partnered with the Family Action Network, so it will be me interviewing Ellen virtually on April 16th at 7 p.m., and then that'll be broadcast nationally. The book is on, I'm about halfway through. It's not a short book. It's about 450 pages. And it is, she's written 9 books. She partnered with Fred Rogers for a portion of her career. And Fred taught her to listen to the children. So the premise was first to, she interviewed and polled teenagers across this country and asked what they most hoped for adults to know about teenagers. And I find myself as a parent of teenagers sometimes to share the the funny stories or the frustrating stories about what it is to be a parent with teenagers. And that is one of the things that they express as young people, that there are negative stereotypes about teenagers that they want to dispel. And I thought that was a great hook. And then she works then with the dichotomy between what the lead researchers are saying about teenagers and what the teenagers are saying about teenagers. And it is a book that's not an education book, it's a parent book that shows through lines through education. But I have found it fascinating, and I have been trying to be on my very best behavior as a dad is home and take these learnings and apply them to my own experience as a father, where I don't fail every day, but most days, and my teenagers in my life remind me of how I could be better and do better. It's a very humbling experience, which I'm sure fellow parents can relate. The last thing, one of the last things, just congratulations to the LFHS Scholastic Bowl team, one of 30 teams competing in the recent sectionals, and Sadie Strong, who's front and center, earned all sectional honors, and she was voted one of the top 12 Scholastic Bowl players at the sectional, and we're proud of all of them, and especially Sadie. That, my friends, concludes the superintendent's report. Happy to answer any questions, but thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Matt. Dr. Lenart?
Hello, welcome to April. I'm actually going to take a little bit of a different twist on the principal's report this month, because we do have our extracurricular athletics and activities report, which is really a lot of the celebration of students. You're going to hear a lot of amazing things that are happening at Lake Forest High School from the team, and just a few minutes after I finish my report. So one of the most exciting things that happen, I think, at Lake Forest High School is our TED Talks, and we just had our annual TED Talks right before the spring break. It was amazing. We have musicians. This is actually one of my students from last year when I taught AP Research. She was presenting her research project at the TED Talk, very confidently speaking about what she learned about Indigenous peoples and restorative circles for Indigenous peoples. And just hearing the students tell these stories with such confidence, I keep thinking, I think I said it last year and the year before, I'm going to do it. I'm just not that interesting, so I don't really have a story to tell, so I've got to think of one. And then the second thing is just to have the nerve to stand up and be so vulnerable, no script, and just to speak from the heart about something you're passionate about, and that's what our Scouts are about. So it's one of the most amazing things that we do at Lake Forest High School. It's something we should be very, very proud of. We have had orchestra concerts, choir concerts, band concerts. We did our foundation grants just, I think, on March 15th, and that's always a fun day. There are balloons, there are balloon hats, there's a celebration as you walk in, everyone's just filled with joy that day as we see the foundation committed to supporting our Scouts in our community, going around and showing that day and awarding these wonderful grants for just different initiatives and innovations from our staff members. So it's been a fun last few weeks, and of course, a really fun time last week because we were on spring break and able to, many of us, get away. Some of us did a staycation, but all of us able to just take some time to rest and relax. And the Monday after spring break is always awesome because everyone's so happy. I mean, people are smiling again. They know that we have the end of the year. Summer's coming. We have the end of the year happening. And right before spring break, people are just dragging and eager for it to start. So it's fun to see everyone happy again as well. So the little bit of a different twist I wanted to take is I wanted to take a little bit of time to talk about what the progression at Lake Forest High School has been around the strategic plan. I know the board's heard a lot of this, but I think for the people who do watch the board reports afterwards, for them to hear that we are continuing to make progress and we are continuing to actively engage with each other as leaders, with our school community, to ensure that we're meeting the goals of our strategic plan. The three pieces that I'm going to focus on today, the strategic plan has much more than these three pieces, but the three big pieces are the community partnerships. Dr. Montgomery already spoke about one of those. One Lake Forest High School and our progress towards realizing the vision of One Lake Forest High School. And then last month I talked about SAT support, but just a reminder that we are looking at SATs, especially with the impending SAT and PSAT next week too. So first of all, SAT support. Last month, I talked about we do have some pull-out tutoring that we're doing during study halls. That's new. We've contracted with a company who we've gone through student score reports. We've seen deficit areas. That company's actually working with students on those deficit areas specifically. I don't want to say deficit areas, those areas in which they could be strengthened for those students, those 11th grade students. That's new this year. We've also had SAT prep happening, drop-ins now happening in our resource centers. So we sent out an email at the end of spring break to our juniors saying we've put in these drop-in learning opportunities in our resource centers. Please come over the next 2 weeks prior to the test. Come in, just pick up a few extra strategies and skills if you're interested. And then, of course, we've targeted those emails as well. We have our SAT Saturday prep, which was very, very successful this year. We had a large number of students participating in that. And then we have that common English assessment that we've just started this year that the students are actually thanking us for, because finally it feels like we're teaching grammar. We always were, but it feels very targeted to our students too. And we continue to embed those college readiness SAT, ACT skills throughout our curriculum and continue to strengthen our curriculum around that. So that's strategic plan goal 1 and the work that we continue to do at Lake Forest High School. I'm going to skip now to One Lake Forest High School at the bottom because that's found in goal 2. And we have actually done a lot of work around realizing that vision of One Lake Forest High School, and it started with really looking at fees and our fee structure and equity in our fee structure. So what does that mean? That means making sure that we have opportunities for students who maybe can't afford certain things, certain activities, that we're creating opportunities for those students to access those. Those different activities. And most recently, I know Dr. Hermes has led with a group of teacher leaders and students a restructuring of our fees that we actually posted last month. Some fees were eliminated, some fees were restructured, just to make sure that we are meeting the needs of all of our students as best we can. So that's a lot of the work that came from that One Lake Forest High School Goal 2 committee that's working on realizing that vision statement. Another piece, our professional growth and development, we've added KTIs that really are about understanding different students, different cultures, and different backgrounds. And it's been really interesting to see our teachers just engaging in this professional learning, openly engaging in this professional learning, and seeing teachers who actually come from other cultures and backgrounds wanting to teach those professional learning opportunities to their peers. So that's new for us. KTIs are not new, but seeing this expansion of KTIs into these other areas is new, and that's something we're very proud of. And then we're hoping to actually establish an action committee. Next, in 2 weeks at Ed Committee, Drea Serrato, who is our World Language Department Chair, she is going to be doing a presentation of all the work that's happened around Goal 2, and we're going to have a really in-depth presentation around the Action Committee that I'm sure Mr. Benson will be able to then report on at the next board meeting. So a lot of phenomenal work happening among that team. And then finally, community partnerships. Dr. Montgomery talked about Meg Kissinger, who will be here tomorrow night in that partnership with Lake Forest Bookstore and the Gorton Center. We're also going to be hosting her tomorrow during the day. She will be joining us for a luncheon where we will have different professionals, different administrators from 65, 67, and 115. And I have a few questions I'll be asking her, and hopefully we'll be able to engage in a really dynamic conversations about not only her experiences in writing the book, her experiences on the North Shore, some of the lessons she learned, some of the surprises as well as she's published this book, and hopefully grow for our community as well. And then she'll also be presenting to a number of our students in afternoon presentations. Those will be focused on her book, but more so around the writing process, because we have students who are really engaged in wanting to learn and strengthen their own writing and their own storytelling too. So we're at an advantage because not only does Meg come with this perspective of mental health and North Shore mental health, but she's also an accomplished journalist. So she comes with that ability and knowledge in writing and the writing process. So we have these two ways we can tap into her with and promote different interests among our scouts. We have Scouting Your Summer, and that is something that happened in early March. And we had about 25 local businesses come in to who have employment availability this summer and meet and talk to our students. But really interesting this year, and this is in partnership with our APT, we have professional panels. We typically did those on Institute Day in February. But we've actually expanded that program where we will have 6 different Thursdays where we will have 4 to 6 community members or professionals in industry who will come in around themes and be presenting to our students. So that's a way for our students to see different industry professionals and what's really out there, what work maybe they've never imagined. We were fortunate in that 67 hosted Monica Lee, who is a NASA rocket scientist. I was like, really, it's, you always hear that joke, it's not rocket science. Well, it is for her because that's what she does. But she came in to speak with our students as well, getting to host her, getting for her to hear, for them, our students, to hear her story, hear the support that she received, and hear that maybe she didn't have it all figured out, but she did end up figuring it out, and for them to learn about how she grew into her position. I think anytime we can bring in people from the outside, a very important part of Goal 3, so I'm so appreciative of the board for establishing that in the strategic plan. It's really important for our scouts to see different professionals. So I just wanted to go through what we've been doing for the strategic plan. I welcome your questions. I knew I had like something that I was going to fly in at the end, and I was holding it. So we've done a lot of work around understanding what are the obstacles to student success. The board has heard about this now for the last couple of months, and a lot of our data it was illuminated in our joint educational committee meeting that we had as well. A lot of our data is showing that we are still struggling in the 9th grade transition, the 9th grade experience once they get into Lake Forest High School. And our data is actually showing that students who do not find engagement in their first year at Lake Forest High School never do. So some way not only to be engaged in extracurricular and activities, but also to feel like they have that trusted adult and to feel like they have that advocate. And that's something that our team has been working on for quite some time. And with that, we will launch our pilot of Scout Seminar next year for the 9th grade transition, as well as a very intentional committee of our 9th grade our teachers who teach 9th grade students coming together around Scout Seminar and around the 9th grade experience as well. So we're hoping for, I don't want to call it a 9th grade academy, but very much like a smaller school within a school experience for our rising 9th grade students, so we can help them to come into Lake Forest High School, to feel like they have an advocate, and to feel like they understand what the structures of high school are. So very excited about the work that we've been doing in the strategic plan around Scout Seminar, and excited about next steps there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, we're going to do quick public participation if there is any. So if there are folks that would like to speak to the board, this is the time to do it. It would be pertaining anything on the agenda items. If not, we have another opportunity at the end of the meeting. So is there anybody who would like to speak with the board at this point? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to our athletics and activities report. So Tim and Ashley, the floor is yours.
Okay, here we go. Oop. Hold on one second. It's very important I share my screen on this one because there's a timer. I got you. I know who we are. I know what we bring. I'm sorry. I like it. I like what we do so much. Talk for days. Okay, there we go. Okay. Okay, Tim, we're already 18 seconds in, so let's go. Hi, I'm Ashley Malik. I am the Director of Student Activities, Instructional Director of Fine and Performing Arts. So everything after school that's not a sport, and everything in school that is with an instrument, whether that be your voice, or art, or theater. So my job's really fun.
Tim Burkhalter, Athletic Director. And I do want to mention Casey and Mike. Casey obviously is not here tonight. He's back attending Fort. We have home volleyball. In addition to our department, not new to the school, but to our department is Mike Mizwicki. And that's been an enormously valuable addition in the coordination between the wellness department and the athletic department. So there's a great synergy there that that kind of has been missing. And adding Mike to our team has been valuable for supervision and a number of practical things, but there are many things that Mike, as the Director of Wellness and one of the Assistant Athletic Directors, it's just created a lot of opportunities for us to work together and partner, particularly with how to best use the facilities when he's got programming going on with the athletic, or with his wellness department, and us with the athletic department. So I'm going to turn it over to Ashley, and she's going to get started.
Okay. So happy to report. Our first thing is just on club and activity. So kind of, we call it my side of the building, his side of the building, my side of the building. We are super excited to report that we have 90% of our kids involved in clubs, theater. So it's been honestly a lot. I know that if anyone who's been on the board for a number of years, you know that there's been a lot of work on the back end in terms of finalizing and clarifying and making sure our clubs feel supported and valued, and every student has a space. And so when things like Hellenic Club come up, you know, I appreciate that you say things like yes. The foundation actually just granted a speaker for one of our freshman experiences next fall, who was a speaker, Alex Saratzis. He was brought in by our Hellenic Club students, partnered with Finance Club and all of our business offerings. He came in, he was a phenomenal guest speaker talking about the impact of his Greek culture on just his life and his heritage and everything that he has kind of explored and the network that he developed, and then really dove into like why taking chances and why his job is, he's a basketball manager, and it's a sport, it's a guy that I'm sure everyone else knows, but I don't. What's his name?
Who is it?
The Greek freak.
Oh, gosh.
That guy. He's on the Milwaukee Bucks.
Oh,
Giannis? There we go. Yes.
Antetokounmpo.
There we go. See, I don't know him, but I know his manager, or I know his agent. So, but it was cool to see his talking to the kids really authentically about his job and why he was brought in and the connection to our students. And now that we approach the foundation with like, this guy's phenomenal, we want to put him in front of more kids and kids that haven't seen him yet. And so they said yes, which was awesome. And we are really excited as like part one of this is our career pathways program for next fall, but it all kind of started out of an idea of kids who just got together and started a pilot, and this is just year 2. So it's really cool to see what they've been doing, how they've been creating these spaces, how they are absolutely student-driven. This is Animal Conservation Club. I had to put this up here because it makes me laugh every single time. They did a winter photo shoot for pets to fundraise to be able to make a donation to local animal shelters, but the kids, our kids are the ones that make me laugh every single time. There's so many pictures of dogs, but I'm like, look at how cute they are. So, and they were all about it. So it was just a lot of fun to see all the ideas that people are really thinking outside of the box. It's a photo teacher who's the sponsor, and she's like, I got a camera. I can do this. I know how to like do this in a bigger way that the kids can really do something fun for the community. It was all right outside the RMA. And then to allow for students to just engage at a level that is fun and creative, but doing good work. So.
thanks, Ash.
We're at 4 minutes.
So I love tonight because I'm super proud of what we're able to offer our kids. And I remember Dewey's words last year to me. Very, very distinctly, he challenged us to raise the bar. And we did. And if you look at our athletic participation of 1,532 student athletes, well, that's more than the 1,356 students in the building. So that accounts for about 1,037 unique athletes and 495 multi-sport athletes. So we've been able to add students to the roles of athletics while losing 59 less students in the building. So that's almost, if my real quick math, that's net plus 100 right there, that we lost 59 kids and we raised 45 athletes. Super proud of that. Love that we have a very robust program where we have 29 interscholastic athletic opportunities. In addition, we have a Special Olympics program, fall, winter, and spring, that continues to be not only popular for our athletes that participate, but our buddies that partner with our Special Olympics kids. And it's a different crop depending upon the season, whether it's bocce ball or basketball in the winter or track and field in the spring. And I'm just super proud that we continue to offer that opportunity for our kids and that they can get plugged in that manner. We had a home basketball game that, in addition to the ELS game, we had a home game with the Cove School, and it just really was a wonderful opportunity. In addition, the intramural program has almost 400 kids participating at some point in that program, whether it's flag football in the fall, whether it's our really popular basketball program on Sundays in the winter, or currently we're wrapping up our spring offering of intramural bowling. And that's got kids that kind of ebb and flow in and out of those things. As you can see, we have 730 male athletes, 802 female athletes, and comparatively speaking, I'm a math geek, sorry, but overall, our participation rate went up 3% when our enrollment went down 4.2%. And that's hard to sustain that. We're going to talk a little bit about, a little later in the presentation, some of the things we've identified of those 121 kids that currently aren't plugged into an athletic event or an activity. We've identified that they are plugged in, but maybe not in a way that we currently are counting. And we're looking for ways to partner with some of the other groups in the school that track some of those things. I also want to talk about, one of my goals this year was to make sure that we were celebrating our kids as often as we could, as regular as we could, and screaming from the rooftops. I thought of something as I was putting this together this week. I'm going to invite the board to our next clap out. For anybody who hasn't been to a clap out, it's a really quick 10-minute opportunity for our math team this Friday. Good, see? We meet at the Senior Star in the front of the building. The student body is on a 10-minute break during their classes on Wednesday or Thursday. We simply strike up the band. We march them through the halls. The kids clap as they go by. Parents are invited in to see the celebration, catch it on film, clap as it happens, and real quickly we're on our way to class. And the kids have gotten to where we don't even have to, we just have to kind of show up with the flag, and they're ready for a clap out, and they're wondering, hey, who's going where today? And whether it was the cheerleaders going to state, whether it was the dance team repeating as state champions, whether it's the math team. I know we had our music kids that we clapped out. It's just a really neat tradition that has really taken a lot of student interest. So we invite you to the math team clap out. I didn't know we had one coming, so that's awesome. New this year, and it's been ordered but hasn't arrived yet, is our Sportsmanship Award Board. So often, we recognize the kids with their success and the achievements. Here, we have a Sportsmanship Award that the league gives in every sport. And what we're going to do is we're going to put those kids' names on that board for an entire year. So if they were the winner of the Football Sportsmanship Award, their name's going to be prominently displayed on a beautiful design board that's going to hang in the lobby in the Metcalf foyer and bring recognition to those kids in a different way, rather than just maybe some of the kids that have success. That's the easier ones, frankly. So we're excited about that. As we dove into our work this year, we were really interested in what other engagements are our athletes or kids that participate in activities on Ashley's side, what else are they involved in besides just the activity? The basketball team obviously is playing basketball, but what else are they doing? And it was really fun to look at how many of our teams are participating in philanthropic things, such as Feed My Starving Children. We probably have 10 teams that have participated in that activity alone. We had a pediatric brain tumor versus cancer game. where we raised funds and donated all the proceeds to pediatric brain cancer treatment. We have kids that go and participate over at Open Lands in cleanup projects. We have a number of programs that it's their bread and butter to support the work at Beacon Place or Gift of Hope. And it was just really fun as we looked into how many teams are participating in those types of other engagements to find out that many of our teams are. So super proud of that. This year, we've had 3 signing days so far for athletes that are going to participate in their sport of their choice at the next level. We've had 16 that have signed. We've got a signing day coming up in 2 weeks that are scheduled for that. Of those 19 signees, I don't know that we've ever had this big a number, but 14 of them are Division I. And we've got some kids who are going to amazing universities, getting an opportunity to further their education and play at the Division I level. So we're really excited about that. And then as I wrap up my number part here, when I look at that 1,037 student athletes that are unique student athletes, not doubles or triples, right? That's 76.5% of our student body. So the work at the north end of the building touches 3/4 of these kids, and I'm super proud of that, and I'm super proud that this board has supported that and allowed us to look at opportunities for these kids. There'll be some more coming on the flag football on the girls' side has been adopted as an IHSA sport. We're looking to have a meeting about that and see what that might look like at Lake Forest High School. We're really excited about what's coming. So I'm going to turn it over to Ashley for her next part.
How did Tim do on his timer?
12 and a half minutes. It's 9 minutes outside, dude. 8 minutes, sorry, my math's not mathing. Engagement process since 2016. This is my, kind of an interesting slide. I always feel like I need to explain a little. We're at 90% today, which we're excited about, and it's awesome because a lot of times we kind of hit that moment where we're so close. And it's like I'm kind of watching not just the data, but the kids and their reactions to the things and the offerings. And I know Tim said yeah, bowling's going really well. Well, 5 kids that weren't engaged are in bowling. So bowling's going great because I know now there's 5 kids on that roster that are now connected somewhere. And I think that says a lot about what we pivot to and if the kids are following and what we are investing in and putting time and energy into and making sure people are staffed and sponsored and we have everything we need. Does that make what kind of moves the needle? And so it's been really interesting to see. I feel like there's a caveat for the past 2 years. The 88% in 2021, 22, 23. There's a threshold that we've always maintained in our data, except for those 2 years. It's 20% minimum, and it sounds really low. But how that lives in a student's life is should they be two-sport athlete and they come to a club on my end of the building every other week, they need to be in that club for at least 20% of the school year to count as engaged in art club. So that's basically winter season when they're off. If they're in a club, they pop up on my list. So those 2 years, we didn't have that threshold in place because we had a lot of contact tracing we had to do. I'm sorry to say those big words again, but we had to know where kids were exactly in that moment on that day and who was there. And so the data on that end is a little bit, I would say, inflated than what it should have been, just given the nature of what we had to do and how we had to keep our attendance really, really tight and needed to know if you went to a club once, you counted. Now we wash those kids kind of out. It was my very first year here in 2018 when I sat next to a student. I shadowed him all day, and I asked him, I was like, so I saw you're in robotics. And he's like, no, I'm not. And it clicked with me at that moment. Why did he show up on my data? And it was literally that first month of work where I sat with Tim, and I was like, what's our threshold? How do we know? Because he went once, and he said that was not for me. And I thought he was involved in something. Little did I know I was sitting next to a kid who started our competitive esports team. By the time he was a senior, but he was not engaged as a freshman at all. And so it was an interesting piece that I feel like the more I just listen and learn from the kids, the more we are adjusting and kind of making that decision as we go. So I will say, as we head into pilot transition process, no decision will be made lightly, but we have a lot of pilots and things to constantly assess and see, are we bringing in new kids? How do we make sure we do this responsibly and do it in a way that's sustainable too? Because it doesn't feel good to be the last member of Hellenic Club and it died. So, you want to make sure you're supporting them and talking to them about, here's the structures, here's what these people did. Highly motivated kids start new clubs and new athletics, but they need a lot of support in the back end of that to make sure they can continue and pass the ropes and not, you're a senior, that's it, you own it, you plan every meeting, but how do you transition to the next group? Just 2 minutes. Next up. This one is exciting, but we can't take all the credit, and we feel like it leads into our next steps for next year. We have 90% of our students engaged. By class, we've had the highest engagement at a senior class level than we've seen historically. The really cool part of this slide, I think, is that our average GPA of students involved in one thing is 4.66 on a 5 scale. You have a student who is not involved in anything, their GPA decreases by 0.55. So our data is starting to show, we've been collecting this data for a couple of years now, trying to see if there's any trends and bumps and changes. On average, the state of Illinois says 2 or more extracurriculars is kind of what you're striving to be or to be involved. For us, if you're involved in one extracurricular, it's 4.66. If you're involved in 2 or more, your average GPA is a 4.73. If you are involved in 4 or more, which sounds crazy, but if you're in 2 sports and 2 clubs, it's actually not that bad and pretty common. You have an average of a 4.88. So it is showing that our data and their connection is improving in their academic abilities. And I do feel like when kids are more structured and have more things to do, they are more regimented because now their time is valuable. Do I have time to go to the gym after school, or do I need to go home and do these other things, or am I kind of lollygagging and not studying? They use their study halls better. There's all of that, just watching the kids, the structures that are in place and the way that it benefits them to even learn a lot about themselves. So I think that is what we were really excited to see was, what are our cut lines? There are kids involved in 12 things. There's no significant increase in your GPA past 4, which is great, because also half of my battle is balance. Like, you don't have to have a laundry list. Find a few things, commit deeply over time, and that is just as valuable as I started my own club, or I am, brought in this speaker all by myself. Like, be a leader in art club, which has been around for 15 years, and that is just as valuable. Interestingly enough, this is where our work lies. 76% of the 121 students who are not involved are involved. It's a little odd. Our engagement data has only counted students after school engagement, at school. What I started to kind of needle with, and it was just kicking around all of these different ways in which we do homecoming check-in, winter formal, peer tutors, Lake Forest Reads, our reading program, our optional summer reading program, optional field trips. 76% of those 121 students are choosing to do those things. So it does tell me that in our community, they don't have to do any of those optional things. And half of them have to pay to show up. So they're choosing to participate in different ways, and it made us really start to kick around this idea of, what do we mean when we say engaged? Do you have to be hours after school for an hour and a half longer? And you really start to parse out a lot of these students whose home languages are different than the commonly spoken English in school. The actual mental fatigue of a student, and I talked to Dr. Leonard about this, I was like, this is fascinating to see because it makes me really excited it's a puzzle, and I want to know why. The absolute mental fatigue of a student translating every single minute of academic language coming at them, maybe having lunchtime where they can talk with a peer or a friend who also speaks Italian. We have a lot of languages in our building. But I understand when they want to leave, when they're done. They did everything they needed to do to be successful as a student, and they're exhausted. So I've started to really think about how might we track and check on our students, because The fact that the number of kids on the unengaged list who are themselves peer tutors was shocking to me. And I was like, you signed up during study hall to tutor other friends, and you're getting credit for this, and you're choosing to do this, and you have to be trained, and you have to go through a process, and you have to sign up in advance and plan a year out. So it's an interesting piece to look at. What else can we look at to make sure we are representative of all the students in our community and all of the ways that they are choosing to engage, that they are a part of our community. They're not, maybe not in that bar graph yet. And how do we make sure we picture and get them in there?
So with that, and Ashley's touched on a couple of these big things, is we want to make sure that we have not just the celebrations that we currently have, but look at some cultural celebrations that might not currently exist that would really engage students from different pockets and have them feel comfortable in their school. And we think that's really important because we're learning that, I'm going to use softball as an example. We had a struggling softball program where our numbers were quite low. We have a large population of girls that have a common thread outside of school with their second language, actually their primary language, English is their second language, who have decided to play softball together. And now our JV team has a number of those kids who are doing something that we would have been tracking all along, and it's because they feel comfortable. So we know those cultural celebrations are critical to that, and we want to add to that list. We want to find ways to celebrate that. Additionally, and this is the tricky part for us because data is tracked in our building in a lot of different ways. And then when you talk to the deans, you're like, okay, how are you guys keeping track of the at-risk kids? How are we working with the support systems with David Hain and his incredible work that goes on in the support area? How do we start to have people, whether it's peer tutors, whether it's people who are connecting in different ways than we're currently tracking, how do we grab that data as well? We've relied so heavily on Corey Homer, who's amazing at writing code to capture these things, and we're going to start to do even more of that. But it's going to be intentional, and Ashley and I have committed to that work to say, how do we grab the stuff that is going on, but maybe not landing on a ledger specifically right now? Because we're really proud that that number of 121 that seem like they're not engaged actually are involved in their school, but maybe not in a credit counting way right now. So we know that that's going to be hard work. We want to build that bigger picture. We want to encompass that for all parts of our student body as well. So we're looking forward to that work the rest of this year, and we're here to answer any questions you might have.
I just want to take a moment that while the presentations are never brief,
I know.
they fill my heart with joy. And the work that you're doing is embodying what this board has challenged us to do. And One Lake Forest is coming to life real time. So this presentation, I think, should be just shared out because it is the work. And I told you the book I was reading for the interview. One of the core tenets is making sure that young people have a sense of belonging. And that's your work. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't be prouder of both of you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Also want to say thanks because you highlight the aspects of what my life was and what I enjoy most because school was last. And so with the board member with the lowest GPA at Lake Forest High School, I just want to congratulate you because that was the home I had, was all of those activities. And they allowed me to do a lot of what I was able to do later on. And I think with the kids finding both a passion and finding a home, that's exactly what happens because it's the discipline, it's the other accountability to your peers, it's the accountability to what you are, you do what you say you're going to do because there's no place to hide within your peers. So I think being able to have that and have the home, and I think just tying it into PALS in terms of so many of those kids have such a diverse background, but they share that interest and that passion for doing theater or drama or whatever it might be in terms of that. And you get the kids that are doing tech and they're doing show after show, and they don't show up necessarily on any sports team, but that's where they're there and that's their home. And so I think finding a home for all these kids and then tying it into all the other aspects of what's special about Lake Forest is that there are sidecar comments about what our high school is or is not. But when you think about all the things that are stood up, all the opportunities that they have, and the work Aaron did with us having the board sitting down with the different students and the parents the other day, and hearing from them about challenges that are unique to each individual and each parent and each family. And some are tragic, some are really tough to go through, and some are great, we get to celebrate. But there is no shortage of opportunity and another caring adult in the building trying to find a place of where they can be. And I just love what you guys do. And it's, again, every one of the presentations we get is just another phenomenal story about what makes us unique and what makes it special for families to find this destination. And we don't really say no to anybody. We find a place for them, and it's the work you do. So thank you for that. And it's phenomenal. I love it. So thank you, Aaron, for beating up on them and making them do all this. It's great. So thank you.
You know, I wanted to say something too. I think you two would probably be interested to learn that tonight in our workshop, the board was discussing what does it mean to be engaged? Because as we're creating our own board goals, we were saying a goal of ours potentially may land that we'd like 100% of our students engaged. Well, what does that mean?
Right.
Does it mean that they have to be engaged in a program we offer, or that they are just simply engaged? And I think it was Aaron that used the example of a figure skater. You know, we don't have figure skating club, but that is a very engaged student. And so what does it mean to be engaged is a question that we were sort of battling tonight. And the other is that we look at kind of academic goals that we have for our kids and looking at each student as an individual, because it really isn't fair to our kids to say the expectation is the same for each and every one of you. They are different learners, they are different people, and they have different destinies, right? And so I feel that you two come and you really find ways to celebrate every single student for who they are. And this is a highlight for me every year as a board member, is when you two come, and this is it's truly a celebration of what Lake Forest High School is. And in my 5 years on the board, I've watched the two of you elevate that. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I've had a student ask for an equestrian club, and I was like, I don't want to ask for funds for a barn. Well, I'm good. But I agree. I think engaged for us means that an adult in the building is connected with them and that they're okay. You know, that they're in something that maybe we don't offer or we can't because we don't have ponies, but that they're okay and they're well-rounded and they have that support system, because I think that's the bigger picture, is these are all of our kids and we want to make sure they're good and that they're ready to go on to like the next step. So, yeah.
It's hard to follow all that up, but 2 quick points. The first is, I think it's really interesting, the statistics about academic achievement and number of extracurricular or athletic activities that kids are engaged in. It's great to see the ramp, and so I would challenge my fellow board members that there really is something about the tie to the school that's key. So I think it is important that multiple people in the building are engaging kids in multiple ways to making them feel like it's their home. The second thing is, I think there is no stronger, I would argue it's likely a long-term indicator of civic engagement that these kids are involved in activities in their community, in schools, in high school. We need those future leaders in this country, and I could not applaud you guys more for all that you do. Thank you.
I want to ask a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So, first of all, I thank you. I'm not gonna replicate all of what my fellow board members have said, except that thank you. So, we saw that you have shifted that the wellness is now under the purview of your group. We've heard about the Scout experience being rolled out. My impression as a parent a number of years ago was that we were counting on wellness to sort of be an unofficial Scout experience and to carry a lot of the water around those sort of unfunded mandates that we had to check the box on, but also that was sort of the only place where the kids would have that opportunity to feel connected. And it was so imperfect. It was one semester. Wellness had to do a whole bunch of things. So my question is it's sort of a question about, am I hearing this correctly? Am I interpreting correctly that as the Scout experience gets more mature and it carries a lot of that responsibility, does that change then? Does that free up wellness to be reimagined, to do something other than be a catch-all for, oh, by the way, we have to have a day's instruction on financial literacy or, the Constitution of Illinois or whatever it is? Is that changing as the Scout experience is taking its place to do what we needed it to do?
So some of the wellness aspects is there Illinois State Board of Education components that we have to teach in wellness classes. We're actually looking at our updated Scout seminar to include more things like the executive functioning, portrait of a learner, and what the realization portrait of a learner will look like, and then some of those different college and career readiness skills that we're hoping for our students to, with our strategic plan, ultimately realize in their 4 years at Lake Forest High School. Wellness, Mike Mizwicki moving as an assistant athletic director and instructional director for wellness, he still very much is an integral part of the instructional leadership team as the instructional director. He serves his department in that way, but we've just shifted the other part of his position to also support athletics too.
Will it change what we have opportunities to do in wellness? Will it change the wellness standard curriculum?
It should not at this point, because Illinois State Board of Education actually has components of the wellness curriculum we have to teach. So that's part of our policy.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, so we'll move on to liaison reports. First one is Ed Redden legislative update. And so quickly, I wanted to say thank you to Phil Georgia, who helped bring a resolution draft forward that we're going to work on. And that should help with some communication and support from Ed Red around a couple different bills that are in play. And so it may just be a resolution to the Illinois Association for School Boards. It also may involve actually amending and changing some existing bills and laws. So we'll see how that goes. I'll give more of an update on some of the things as the spring session finishes in May. Second, True North Educational Cooperative. John?
Nothing in addition to the report sent out.
Thanks. Yes, and I didn't say that to you, Sarah, and thank you guys for being here. You didn't have to stay, but I appreciate you guys. Thank you, Tim. What? It was gripping. There you go, yes. Board meetings are. All right, so we're going to move on to the action items. So action item number 1, may I have a motion to approve the 2024-2025 Quest contract renewal, please?
So moved.
Second.
Anything discussed on this? Okay. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Noble?
Aye.
Mr. Davis, or, I'm sorry, Ms. Davis.
Aye.
Mr. Burns?
Aye.
Ms. Zinser?
Aye.
Dr. Benson?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Great, thanks.
I'll throw in an aye there, too.
Oh, got it. Yeah.
May I have a motion to approve the textbook adoption for the 2024-2025 school year?
So moved.
Second.
May I have a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Zinser?
Aye.
Dr. Benson?
Aye.
Mr. Noble?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Weinbrenner?
Aye.
Mr. Burns?
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you. May I have a motion to approve the approval of the designated levels of authority for the referendum enabling project for 2024?
So moved.
Second.
May I have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Weinbrenner?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Dr. Benson?
Aye.
Mr. Noble?
Aye.
Ms. Zinser?
Aye.
Mr. Burns?
Aye.
Great, thank you.
Motion carries.
Thank you. And then for the consent agenda, items 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda items 1 through 5, please?
So moved. Second.
May I have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Noble,
Aye.
Ms. Zinser,
Aye.
Mr. Burns,
Aye.
Mr. Weinbrenner,
Aye.
Ms. Davis,
Aye.
Dr. Venson,
Aye.
motion carries.
All right, thank you. FOIA requests, Jeff Brinkett, 8 of 8 completed. L. Lawlet, 2 of 2 completed. Sherry Reed Smart, 3 of 3 completed. Mike Hudding, 1 of 1 completed. Jim, 1 of 1 completed. And then second chance for public participation, if there is any that would like to, at this point, open up. All right, seeing none, we will move on to announcements. Tuesday, April 16th, will be the next Education Committee meeting at 7:30 a.m. at Lake Forest High School East Campus, room 109. Thursday, April 18th, Lake Forest District 115 Community Forum. And this referendum update will be in the Lake Forest Library, I believe, 6:30 p.m. Tuesday, April 23rd, will be the next Finance and Ops meeting, 7:30 a.m. at Lake Forest High School West Campus here. And then Tuesday, May 7th, 2024, will be the next board meeting here at 7 p.m. at West Campus. All right. May I have a motion to adjourn the Lake Forest High School Community High School District 115 Board meeting for April 2nd, 2024?
So moved.
Second.
Second. Oh.
Yeah, thank you. May I have a voice vote, please? All in favor, say aye.
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 Meeting adjourned. Thanks so much.